Japan has the highest life expectancy of any large nation on Earth. According to the World Health Organization, the average life expectancy in Japan is 84.3 years, the longest of any country in the world. Japanese women live an average of 87.1 years. Japanese men, 83.5 years. Compare that to the United States, where average life expectancy is 76.4 years. That is nearly an 8-year gap, nearly a decade of additional life, on average, simply by virtue of being born Japanese. But it goes even deeper than longevity. Japan is home to the highest number of centenarians, people who live to 100 or beyond, of any nation on Earth. As of 2023, Japan had over 92,000 centenarians. That number has increased every single year for more than 53 consecutive years. And the quality of life among Japan's elderly is equally remarkable. Japanese seniors report significantly lower rates of obesity, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, dementia, and depression than their counterparts in virtually every other developed nation. They are not just living longer, they are living better for longer. They are living with functionality, clarity, purpose, and joy deep into ages that most of the Western world associates with decline, dependence, and disease. So what is the secret? Is it genetics? Partly, but only a very small part. The children and grandchildren of Japanese immigrants who adopt Western lifestyles develop Western rates of disease within 1 to 2 generations. The Japanese longevity advantage is not carried in the DNA. It is carried in the daily habits, the food philosophy, the social structure, and the deeply held cultural values that shape every hour of a Japanese person's life. My name is Camila Torres, and today I am going to share with you the 5 most powerful secrets behind Japan's extraordinary longevity. These are not ancient mysteries. They are not expensive wellness trends or complicated medical interventions. They are daily practices built into the architecture of ordinary Japanese life that the science of aging now confirms to be among the most powerful longevity tools available to any human being on the planet. And every single one of them is available to you, starting today. Secret number 5, Hara Hachi Bu, the art of eating to 80% full. Every culture on Earth has a relationship with food, but Japan has something that almost no other culture has formalized so deeply into its food philosophy. A rule about when to stop eating. Hara Hachi Bu. It is a Confucian teaching that translates roughly to eat until you are 80% full. It is the practice of stopping before you feel completely satisfied, pausing at the point of contentment rather than the point of fullness, and trusting that in 20 minutes, when the brain catches up to the stomach's signals, you will realize you ate exactly the right amount. In Okinawa, the southernmost island prefecture of Japan and one of the world's 5 designated blue zones, regions where people live measurably longer than anywhere else on Earth, Hara Hachi Bu is not just a philosophy. It is a lived daily practice embedded in the culture from childhood. Researchers studying Okinawan centenarians found that they consume an average of 1,800 to 1,900 calories per day, compared to the average American consumption of approximately 2,500 calories per day. That caloric difference, sustained over decades, produces profoundly different metabolic outcomes. That 600-calorie daily difference, compounded over 40 years of adult life, is equivalent to approximately 6.5 million fewer calories consumed. The metabolic, inflammatory, and hormonal consequences of that difference are staggering. The science behind why caloric moderation extends life is now well established. Caloric restriction, even modest restriction maintained consistently, activates a family of proteins called sirtuins, often called the longevity genes. Sirtuins regulate cellular stress responses, DNA repair, inflammation suppression, and mitochondrial efficiency. They are activated when cells are exposed to mild nutritional stress and function as a biological emergency repair crew, maintaining cellular health and reducing the rate of aging at the molecular level. A 2022 study published in the journal Science found that even a 14% reduction in caloric intake in healthy adults was associated with measurable improvements in cardiometabolic biomarkers, reduced systemic inflammation, and slowing of a biological aging clock measured through blood-based methylation analysis. 14%. Less than 1/4 of the gap between the average Okinawan and average American daily intake. But Hara Hachi Bu is not just a calorie counting strategy. It is a mindfulness practice. It requires slowing down. It requires paying attention to the body's signals. It requires eating without distraction, without screens, without the noise that drowns out the quiet biological messages that say enough. In Japan, meals are eaten slowly, often in silence or gentle conversation, with full attention given to the food, the flavor, the texture, and the experience of nourishment. Research from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that eating slowly and mindfully reduced caloric intake by an average of 88 calories per meal compared to eating quickly, and significantly increased post-meal satiety. Across 3 meals per day, that is more than 260 fewer calories consumed daily, without any deliberate restriction, simply by slowing down and paying attention. How to apply it? Before your next meal, take 3 slow breaths. Eat without your phone or television. Put your fork or spoon down between bites. Chew each mouthful thoroughly. When you feel you are approaching fullness, pause for 2 minutes. If after 2 minutes you still feel genuinely hungry, continue eating. If you feel satisfied, stop. Your body is speaking. Hara Hachi Bu teaches you to listen. Secret number 4, the Japanese diet, food as daily medicine. Japan's longevity is inseparable from what Japanese people eat. Not as a diet in the Western sense, not a temporary program or a seasonal cleanse, but as a permanent, culturally embedded way of relating to food that happens to align almost perfectly with what decades of nutritional science identifies as optimal for human health and longevity. Let us look at the architecture of the traditional Japanese diet and why it produces the outcomes it does. Fish and omega-3 fatty acids. Japan is the world's 3rd largest consumer of fish and seafood. The average Japanese person consumes approximately 27 kilograms of fish per year, compared to roughly 7 kilograms for the average American. This is not a trivial difference. Fish, particularly cold water oily fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, and tuna, are among the richest natural sources of omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, the long-chain forms that the body uses directly for anti-inflammatory, cardiovascular, and neurological functions. Omega-3 fatty acids reduce triglyceride levels, lower blood pressure, reduce platelet aggregation and the risk of blood clots, reduce systemic inflammation through inhibition of pro-inflammatory cytokines, and support the structural integrity of neuronal membranes in the brain. A 2021 meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American Heart Association found that higher dietary omega-3 intake was associated with a 16% reduction in cardiovascular mortality. Japan's cardiovascular death rate is among the lowest of any developed nation, and dietary omega-3 intake is widely considered a primary driver. The traditional Japanese diet is rich in fermented foods, including miso, a fermented soybean paste used in the iconic miso soup, consumed at nearly every Japanese meal. Natto, a fermented soybean product with an intensely unique flavor and extraordinary nutritional density. Sukemono, fermented pickled vegetables that accompany most Japanese meals. And kefir-style fermented beverages. These foods deliver living probiotic bacteria to the gut in quantities that dwarf what most Western diets provide. The gut microbiome, the community of trillions of microorganisms living in the human digestive tract, is now understood to be one of the most powerful regulators of systemic health in the entire body. It regulates immune function, influences mood and cognition through the gut-brain axis, controls the intestinal barrier that prevents inflammatory compounds from entering the bloodstream, and produces short-chain fatty acids that are primary energy sources for the cells lining the colon and that have measurable anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, and metabolic benefits throughout the body. A 2021 study published in Cell found that a high fermented food diet significantly increased gut microbiome diversity and reduced markers of systemic inflammation compared to a high fiber diet, even in healthy adults. Microbiome diversity, the breadth and variety of bacterial species in the gut, is consistently associated with longevity and with protection against virtually every major chronic disease. Green tea is the national beverage of Japan. The average Japanese adult consumes 3 to 5 cups per day, every day, from young adulthood through extreme old age. And green tea is not merely a pleasant beverage. It is, cup for cup, one of the most pharmacologically active health-promoting drinks available to human beings. Green tea contains an extraordinary concentration of a catechin called epigallocatechin gallate, or EGCG. EGCG is a polyphenol with potent antioxidant activity, anti-inflammatory properties, anti-cancer activity demonstrated in multiple cell line and epidemiological studies, and direct effects on metabolic pathways including fat oxidation, glucose metabolism, and the autophagy pathway, the cellular self-cleaning process through which damaged cellular components are broken down and recycled. A landmark study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, following over 40,000 Japanese adults for 11 years, found that those who consumed 5 or more cups of green tea daily had a 26% lower risk of cardiovascular death and a 16% lower risk of all-cause mortality compared to those who consumed less than 1 cup daily. The association was consistent across age groups and both sexes. Traditional Japanese meals are built around the principle of ichiju sansai, meaning 1 soup and 3 sides. A typical Japanese meal features a small bowl of rice, a bowl of miso soup, and 3 small side dishes featuring different preparations of fish, vegetables, and legumes. The typical portion sizes are small. The variety of foods within a single meal is large, and the visual presentation of the meal, the careful arrangement of small dishes that look as intentional as a painting, is an act of respect for the food and the person eating it. This dietary variety ensures broad micronutrient coverage without relying on supplements. Japanese diets are naturally rich in iodine from seaweed and seafood, in selenium, in vitamins B12 and D, in calcium from small fish eaten with their bones and from tofu, and in a wide spectrum of plant polyphenols from the remarkable variety of vegetables, seaweeds, and fermented foods consumed daily. How to apply it? You do not have to adopt an entirely Japanese diet, but incorporating fatty fish twice per week, adding a tablespoon of fermented foods such as miso paste, kimchi, or natural yogurt daily, replacing 1 or 2 cups of coffee with green tea, and consciously reducing portion sizes at every meal will begin to replicate the metabolic and longevity benefits of this extraordinary food culture. Secret number 3, Ikigai, the reason to get up in the morning. Here's a question that might be the most important one in this entire video. Do you know why you are getting up tomorrow? Not what you need to do, not what is on your calendar, not the obligations that will pull you out of bed because they have to be met. I mean, why? What is the deep, personal, irreducible reason that makes your life feel meaningful and worth showing up for? In Japan, this is called Ikigai. Iki means life, gai means worth or value. Together, Ikigai means the reason you are alive. It is the intersection of what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can be sustained by. Finding and living your Ikigai is not considered a luxury in Japanese culture. It is considered a fundamental component of a well-lived and long life. And the science could not agree more strongly. A study published in Psychosomatic Medicine followed over 73,000 Japanese adults for 7 years and found that those who reported a strong sense of Ikigai had significantly lower rates of cardiovascular disease, lower all-cause mortality, and lower rates of depression compared to those who reported no clear sense of life purpose. Men who reported having Ikigai were 1.7 times less likely to die during the study period than those who did not. A parallel body of research in Western psychology, using the concept of purpose in life rather than Ikigai, has produced remarkably consistent findings. A 2019 meta-analysis published in JAMA Network Open, which pooled data from 10 prospective studies involving over 136,000 adults, found that a high sense of purpose in life was associated with a 17% lower risk of all-cause mortality and a 16% lower risk of cardiovascular disease over follow-up periods of up to 14 years. Purpose does not just make life feel better, it makes life last longer. This is not poetry, this is peer-reviewed epidemiology. The biological mechanisms are compelling. People with a strong sense of purpose show lower cortisol awakening responses, a marker of chronic stress. They show lower levels of interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein, primary markers of systemic inflammation. They show better sleep quality, more consistent health behaviors, greater resilience in the face of illness and adversity, and measurably better immune function. Purpose is, in the most literal biological sense, anti-inflammatory. In Okinawa, the concept of Ikigai is so deeply embedded that Okinawan centenarians, when interviewed by researchers, often describe their daily work as never having retired. A 97-year-old woman who wakes up every morning to tend her garden and teach younger women in her village traditional weaving techniques is not working because she has to. She is working because the work is inseparable from who she is. The garden is not a hobby, it is her Ikigai. Contrast this with the Western concept of retirement, in which the goal of working life is to stop working as early as possible and spend the remainder of life in leisure. Research on retirement consistently shows that abrupt, total retirement from purposeful activity is associated with accelerated cognitive decline, increased rates of depression, and reduced life expectancy, particularly in men. The activity is not the point. The purpose the activity provides is the point. How to apply it. Ask yourself honestly what makes you feel alive. What activities make you lose track of time? What skills do you have that others genuinely benefit from? What contribution, however small, feels uniquely yours to make? Your Ikigai does not have to be grand. It does not have to change the world. It has to be real, specific, and yours. Find it, protect it, and practice it every single day. Secret number 2, Moai, the social network that keeps you alive. In Okinawa, from the earliest years of childhood, people are organized into small social groups called moai. A moai is a group of 5 or 6 people, roughly age-matched, who commit to one another for life. They meet regularly. They share meals, troubles, finances in times of hardship, celebrations, and the unscripted ordinariness of each other's daily lives. They are not family, though they function as family. They are a chosen community of mutual accountability and belonging, and they persist across decades. Okinawan centenarians consistently report their moai as one of the primary sources of meaning, support, and joy in their lives. Some of these groups have been meeting weekly for 90 years. The members grow old together. They grieve together when members die. And research on these groups suggests that the social cohesion they provide is one of the most measurable contributors to the extraordinary longevity of Okinawan women in particular. What the moai represents is something that modern Western society has allowed to quietly collapse: deep, consistent, unconditional social belonging. The science on social connection and longevity is as robust as almost any other field in health research. A landmark meta-analysis published in PLOS Medicine, which synthesized data from 148 studies involving over 300,000 participants across multiple countries, found that individuals with strong social relationships had a 50% greater likelihood of survival compared to those with poor or insufficient social connections. 50%. To put that in context, the survival advantage conferred by strong social connection is comparable to quitting smoking, greater than the benefit of exercising regularly, and significantly greater than the mortality reduction associated with obesity treatment. Loneliness and social isolation are not emotional problems. They are medical ones. They are as dangerous to longevity as smoking 15 cigarettes per day, according to research from Brigham Young University. The biological mechanisms are direct and measurable. Social isolation chronically activates the body's threat response, the same physiological cascade that is triggered by physical danger. Cortisol remains elevated. Inflammatory cytokines remain elevated. The immune system remains in a state of chronic, low-grade activation that over years damages blood vessels, increases cancer risk, impairs cognitive function, and accelerates every measurable marker of biological aging. Conversely, warm, consistent social connection activates the parasympathetic nervous system, reduces cortisol, stimulates oxytocin production, reduces blood pressure, improves immune function, and is associated with longer telomere length, one of the most direct biological markers of cellular aging rate. People with rich social lives literally age more slowly at the cellular level. Japan's social architecture supports connection in ways that Western societies have allowed to erode. Multi-generational households remain far more common in Japan than in Western countries. Neighborhood associations, called chonaikai, maintain community ties through shared local activities and mutual aid. The elderly are not socially sidelined. They are respected, consulted, and included. An older Japanese person is more likely to be at the center of a social gathering than on the margins of one. The epidemic of loneliness in the Western world, a phenomenon so severe that the United Kingdom appointed a minister for loneliness in 2018. The United States Surgeon General issued an advisory on loneliness as a public health crisis in 2023, and the WHO has called social isolation a global health priority, is the direct inverse of the Moai model. It is what happens when community is replaced by transaction, when neighborhoods are replaced by networks, and when the slow, imperfect, irreplaceable work of being genuinely present for other people is crowded out by the busyness of modern life. Secret number 1, daily walking, the oldest longevity medicine in existence. I know what you are thinking. Walking? That is the secret? After everything we have discussed, the number 1 longevity secret of the longest lived people on Earth is walking? Yes. And I want to tell you exactly why, with the full weight of the science behind it. Because the reason walking sits at number 1 is not that it is better than the other 4 secrets. It is that it is the foundation on which all of them rest, and the single habit most consistently documented across every blue zone and every longevity population ever studied. Japanese people walk, constantly, structurally, without having to motivate themselves to do it, without a gym membership, without athletic gear, without a personal trainer or a fitness app or a step count goal. They walk because their lives are built in a way that makes walking unavoidable, natural, and pleasurable. Japan has one of the world's most comprehensive public transportation networks. The result is that the average Japanese adult walks between 7,000 and 10,000 steps per day, as a byproduct of simply navigating their daily life, walking to the train station, walking from the station to the office, walking to the market, walking in the evening after dinner. There is no need for a dedicated exercise session, because movement is embedded in the infrastructure of ordinary existence. In the villages of Okinawa, where roads are narrow, topography is varied, and traditional architecture places living, cooking, eating, and social areas at different levels, connected by stairways and paths, daily physical movement is simply what life requires. There is no sedentary default. Movement is the default. Now let us look at what that daily walking is actually doing to the human body at a biological level, because the evidence is extraordinary. A landmark study published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2002, the Nurses' Health Study, which followed over 72,000 women for 8 years, found that walking at a brisk pace for at least 30 minutes per day, 5 days per week, reduced the risk of cardiovascular events by 30 to 40% compared to sedentary women. 30 to 40% from walking. A 2019 study published in JAMA Internal Medicine, following over 16,000 older women with a mean age of 72, found that those who walked 7,500 or more steps per day had a 41% lower risk of dying during the study period, compared to those who walked fewer than 2,700 steps. The relationship plateaued around 7,500 steps, suggesting that the massive step count targets promoted by fitness tracking culture are unnecessary. Consistent, moderate daily walking is the target, not heroic endurance. A 2020 meta-analysis published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, examining data from 196 cohort studies involving over 30 million person-years of follow-up, found that regular walking was associated with significant reductions in all-cause mortality, cardiovascular disease incidence, type 2 diabetes incidence, several cancer types, and depression. No other single lifestyle intervention has this breadth of protective effect across this range of outcomes simultaneously. But the longevity benefits of daily walking go beyond cardiovascular protection. Walking preserves and stimulates the brain. Research from the University of British Columbia found that regular aerobic exercise, including brisk walking, increased the size of the hippocampus, the brain region most critical for memory formation, by approximately 2% over 1 year, reversing age-related volume loss in this key structure. A 2014 review in Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews found that regular walking increased levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, the protein sometimes called fertilizer for the brain, because of its role in neuron growth, synaptic plasticity, and protection against neurodegeneration. Walking also has profound effects on the metabolic diseases that shorten life most dramatically in the Western world. A 30-minute brisk walk increases insulin sensitivity for 24 to 48 hours following the walk, reducing the blood glucose spikes that damage blood vessels, kidneys, and nerves in people with prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. Regular walking reduces visceral fat, the metabolically active fat surrounding internal organs that drives inflammation, insulin resistance, and cardiovascular risk. And walking outdoors, which is how Japanese people primarily walk, adds the benefits of sunlight exposure for vitamin D synthesis and of contact with natural environments, a practice called Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing in Japan, which has been shown to reduce cortisol levels, lower blood pressure, improve immune function, and reduce markers of inflammation within hours of exposure. Walking is also the practice through which many of the other longevity secrets are delivered. The elderly Japanese woman walking to the market is practicing Hara Hachi Bu because she will buy only what she can carry and cook fresh. She is living her Ikigai because the walk is purposeful and socially embedded in community interactions along the route. She is strengthening her moai because she will stop and talk to the neighbors she passes. And she is eating well because the walk ends at a market full of fresh fish, vegetables, and fermented foods, rather than a drive-through window. Walking is not one of the secrets of Japanese longevity. It is the thread that ties all the other secrets together. How to apply it. You do not need to overhaul your life. You need to walk, today. Take 20 minutes after dinner and walk around your neighborhood. Park further from your destination, deliberately. Take the stairs. Get off public transport one stop early. Replace one sedentary scrolling session per day with a 15-minute walk outside. Build it into the structure of your day so that it requires no willpower. Willpower is unreliable. Structure is permanent. Aim for 7,000 steps as your daily baseline. Not 10,000, not 15,000, 7,000. Consistent, sustainable, every day. The research says that is enough to add years to your life. These 5 longevity secrets work as one system, not separate habits. Hara Hachi Bu, stop at 80% full, reduces overeating and improves metabolic health. Traditional Japanese diet provides nutrient-dense, anti-inflammatory foods. Ikigai gives purpose, reducing stress and supporting long-term health. Moai, social bonds, lowers stress and improves emotional resilience. Daily walking supports heart, brain, and immune health in a sustainable way. Together, they form a lifestyle that improves health and longevity through small, consistent daily habits rather than extreme changes. I want to leave you with this. A 90-year-old woman living a long, healthy life didn't rely on complex systems, just consistent daily habits over decades. She ate mostly local food, moved every day, stopped eating before being full, stayed socially connected, and lived with purpose. The key message? Longevity comes from simple, repeatable habits, not extreme methods. Start small. Choose one action today, like eating slower, taking a short walk, drinking green tea, or connecting with someone. One habit practiced daily is what creates a long and healthy life over time. Directly to your daily life. Now, go take that walk.